Hello, everybody, and welcome to Biosc140 Human Physiology. This is our first lecture. This will be on lecture exam 1. So, introduction to physiology. So, moving right along, jumping right into the course. What is physiology? I think this is a pretty good place to start. So, just some background. Everyone in this class should have already taken chemistry. Everybody should have already taken some math. Everybody in this class should have already taken anatomy. So in anatomy, you study the human form. You study the structure of the human body. In physiology, we're going to study how that structure actually functions. So anatomy is the study of structure. Physiology is the study of function. What do those body parts actually do? How do they work? How do they all function in order to make a functioning human being? So that's what we're going to learn over the next 16, 17 weeks. We're going to learn how the human body functions. Now, structure and function, are they related? Absolutely, they are related. So an easy example would be, think about the structure of a spoon. What is the function of a spoon? A spoon is designed to bring delicious soup from your bowl to your mouth. And its structure is such a way that it allows it to do this job. If there were holes in your spoon, it wouldn't do this job very well. If your spoon looked like a fork, it wouldn't do its job very well. The shape of the spoon helps it to do its function. So let's look at this a little closer. What is shown in this photo right here? Let's think about it for a moment. So it's an X-ray. What anatomical structure is shown on this X-ray, on this radiograph? So it's a pair of knees. It's a pair of knees. Now, I don't expect you to be X-ray diagnosticians at this moment, but think about what you know about knees and tell me what you notice about these knees. I'm going to tell you, there's something wrong with the structure of these knees. All right, what is wrong with the structure of these knees? Well, let's take a look at some normal knees, or quote unquote normal. I don't like using that term normal, but I think that's the best one. Non-pathological knees here on the right side of the screen, and these pathological knees on the left side of the screen. What is the difference between each of these photos? What do you notice that's different between each of these photos? So usually when I show students both of these photos side to side, students quickly pick up on the fact that, here, let me get my pointer going. Let me get my annotator. Spotlight. There we go. All right, so now you should be able to see a red dot where my cursor is. Most students, once you see both of these photos, quickly pick up that you can see through the joint space on these non-pathological knees. You can see all the way through the joint space. Over here on the left side of the screen, on the lateral aspects of the knees, the joint space is fairly well preserved, but on the medial aspect, the joint space is not preserved very well at all. The joint space is minimal. All of that cartilage, those menisci, all that stuff has been worn away. These knees are highly arthritic knees, and they're not actually my knees, although I was a soccer player growing up and my knees certainly aren't the greatest, but these knees are from another professor at DVC who teaches human physiology. If you've been on campus, you might know him, but I'm not going to say who it is, even though I have his permission. But if you see him walk, he walks with a little bit of a limp. He walks slowly, and he doesn't bend his knee. He kind of moves a little bit side to side a little bit as he walks, because his knees don't bend as easily. His knees don't have that cushion. His knees just don't function as, a healthy 15-year-old's knees would function. The structure has been altered, and therefore the function has been altered. Form and function, highly related. The structure has been altered, and so the function has been altered. Form and function, highly related. Let's look at another example. So what's up with those big ears? So this organism on the screen now is a jackrabbit. Jackrabbits live in the desert, and they live actually in oak savannas. They live in a number of different habitats, but the oak savannas around DVC in Northern California have lots of jackrabbits. So what's up with these big ears? Why does this rabbit have such large ears? Now we're talking about form and function, so this form must have some function to it, right? Yeah, so most students, they go, oh, this rabbit has big ears so it can hear better. Well, that is part of it, but not all rabbits have big ears. And yeah, so, the large ears might help some with the rabbit's ability to hear predators coming up. But I want you to look closely at what's going on inside of the ear. Look at that large blood vessel. Look at that huge blood vessel and all that venation going on around it. These rabbits are able to control the blood flow into their ears. The vessels that carry blood in their ears, the blood's very close to the surface of the skin, and it allows for rapid heat transfer. So if this rabbit wants to exchange heat with the environment quickly, it will allow for more blood to flow into its ears, allowing for heat to dissipate more quickly. So these ears are large in part to help with thermal regulation, with altering and controlling the amount of heat that this rabbit maintains or loses. Send more blood to the ears, more rapid heat exchange with the environment. Send less blood to the ears, slower, lower heat transfer with the environment. So I think it's good to know kind of a little bit of history of physiology. If you have time, looking at the history of physiology and medicine is absolutely fascinating. And I'm talking about ancient history, like a long time ago, and some more recent, like last 100, 200, 300 years. There's a lot of really, really fascinating stories. Like, most ancient cultures knew about diabetes, and it's interesting to hear about and learn about what they knew about it. I know the ancient Chinese, the ancient Koreans, Native Americans, the Greeks, they all, the ancient Egyptians, they all knew about diabetes because people who had it, their pee was sweet. Their pee was like honey-like. And also, they didn't tend to live the longest. They had some health issues. And they were able to correlate these two, the sweet urine along with the health issues that, the diabetics had back in the day. But there's tons of stories that are just fascinating about the history of physiology and medicine. We're going to look at a few guys throughout the semester. So let's start off with Aristotle. So Aristotle was the first, Greek to kind of talk about physiology. And he described it as the knowledge of nature. So physiology is the knowledge of nature, Aristotle. If you go a little bit further in time, a little bit close to our day, Hippocrates talked about physiology also, and he kind of changed the definition a little bit to mean the healing power of nature. The healing power of nature. And Hippocrates, his writings have a large impact on medicine nowadays. Doctors, when they get licensed, they take the Hippocratic Oath. Hippocratic Oath, Hippocrates. All right, so let's move on. So physiology is the basis of what most of you will do professionally for the majority of your lives. Most of the students taking this class are going to be in the health field. You're going to have patients in front of you. You're going to be helping a patient in front of you. Physiology is how the body works, and you need to know how the body works in order to help the patient in front of you. It's the basis of all of it. When we talk about physiology this year, this semester, we're going to be kind of jumping around different levels, different hierarchical organizations, different levels, different size levels. So physiology, in this class, we're going to be talking about molecules. We're going to be talking about proteins and fats, different lipids. We're going to be talking about amino acids. We're going to be talking about molecules. We're also going to be talking about cells, which are large organized groups of molecules. We'll be talking about tissues, which are large organized groups of cells. We'll be talking about organs, which are groups of tissues. We'll talk about organ systems, which are groups of organs. We talk about organisms, which are groups of organ systems. And we'll be talking about populations of humans, it's human physiology, which are groups of organisms. So sometimes students can get a little confused with us jumping around these different organization levels. Be ready for it. It's going to happen all semester long. So each level serves as a building block for the next. Now, emergent properties. Emergent properties, heads up. This is my 8th semester teaching this class, and I think every single semester I've asked a question about emergent properties on the first exam, or I've at least had it on the exam as like a distractor in multiple choice. So pay attention to any word that's underlined, that's bold, that's italicized. I'm pointing it out on the slides because it's an important word, and I'm probably going to write a test question about it. So novel properties that result from the interaction of components. An emergent property means it's a property that's greater than the sum of its parts. So molecules. An individual molecule is a pretty cool thing. It can do certain things. It's got certain properties, this individual molecule. Let's take a group of molecules, though, and form them into a cell. That cell can do things. It has properties that the individual molecules do not. A cell has properties, has emergent properties that the individual molecules that make it up do not. When you group a bunch of the right cells together and you form a tissue, more emergent properties come out. Tissues have properties that the individual cells do not. They have emergent properties, and so on up the list. Organs have emergent properties. Organs are groups of tissues. Organs can do things that those tissues cannot. Organ systems can do things that organs cannot. There's emergent properties. So life's levels of organizations, technically, the smallest unit of life is the cell, but we will be talking about atoms and molecules in this class. So right here we have an atom. This atom a bunch of atoms grouped together form a molecule. Right here's a benzene ring. A group of molecules together can form a cell. Levels of organization. Right here we have a tissue. Probably remember this histological slides from anatomy class. At least you should. If not, review. Groups of tissues coming together form an organ or organ systems. The respiratory system. Groups of systems can form an organism. Now, this is human physiology, but here's a really, really big tree. And trees are groups of tissues and organs also. Right here, we have groups of an individual species, a group of penguins. That's one level of organization. You can take it one level up and look at an ecosystem, like this one down here. And then you look at groups of ecosystems, you've got the whole biosphere, the whole area of living organisms within Earth. Now, we're not going to be talking about the whole biosphere in this class. You know, we're focused on really atoms and molecules up to the population of one species, humans being that species. So physiology is an integrative science. In physiology, we're going to take all your past knowledge, all your past science and math knowledge, and we're going to use it all. So the first couple weeks of class, I mean, you'll see like the first lab, it's kind of a review lab. You know, this lecture, there's some review also. We'll be doing some review on the next, the second lecture, we'll be doing some chemistry review. Physiology is going to use your math knowledge. Physiology is going to use your biology knowledge, your cell biology and your cellular biology and just biology knowledge. Physiology is going to use a lot of chemistry. Physiology, we work in some physics. Physiology is a combination of all of the science classes that you've taken so far. So it's an integrative science. If you need to review chemistry, math, cell biology, the first week or two is really your time. You know, we've got 17 weeks to learn how the entire human body works. And so this class moves fast, 5-unit class. All right, so organ systems are not functionally isolated. In this class, we have to organize it in certain ways in order for the class to work. We're going to talk about the respiratory system. We're going to talk about the circulatory system. It's important to understand, though, that these systems are not functionally isolated. What happens in the circulatory system can affect what happens in the kidneys. What happens in the kidneys can affect what happens in the nervous system. What happens in the nervous system can affect what happens in the musculoskeletal system. These all organ systems interact extensively. They operate as integrative units. Another important thing that you'll see very quickly in this class is that there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of redundancy in this class, or in the human body. You know, we're going to talk about ways to affect blood pressure, and there's going to be a bunch of different ways that your body controls blood pressure. We're going to talk about pH. There's a ton of different ways in which your body can affect the pH levels in your body. We're going to talk about controlling calcium and phosphate levels, and there's 3 main ways that your body uses to control those levels. So there's a lot of redundancy, shared function within the human organism. What organ systems protect us from infection? I'll give you a moment to think. What protects us from infection? Well, our immune system helps us, but the immune system has lots of different components. It's white blood cells. It's white blood cells coming from pluripotent hematopoietic stem cells, which are technically part of your cardiovascular system. It's your skin, your integumentary system, keeping the bad bacteria and viruses outside of your body and keeping you safe, protecting you from infection. Enable reproduction. Well, you've got a Reproductive system. You got ovaries and uteruses and testes. Maintain acid-base balance. Well, you're going to see that a lot of different parts of your body play a role in maintaining acid-base balance, from the buffers which resist pH change in your blood, to your lungs playing a huge role, to your kidneys playing a huge role, to even your digestive tract playing a huge role. So teleology versus mechanism. So these are kind of ways of looking at natural phenomenon and exploring, understanding natural phenomenon. The mechanism view, also called mechanism, says all natural phenomena can be explained through a physical and chemical law. The teleological view, or teleology, holds that some additional force other than physical and chemical laws is required to explain the function of a living organism. Teleology is also used to describe a situation where where a human purpose is attributed to something that is not human. So in this class, we're going to take a mechanistic view of things. Now, sometimes just out of habit, just out of how humans talk and how we communicate in our culture, I will say things in a teleological view. I'll say something like, glucose wants to enter your cells. Does glucose really have a want? Saying that glucose wants something is a teleological view. But, I probably will say things like that at time to time throughout the semester. I'm not going to, in reality, in how we're going to kind of treat things in this class, I don't want to say in reality, but in how we're going to treat things in this class, we're going to use a mechanistic view of things. That there's a scientific reason for why glucose will move from our bloodstream into our cells. Not that it wants to, it's that there's a chemical reason, there's a physics reason that glucose is going to move from our bloodstream into our cells. That's the mechanist view. In this class, we're going to focus mainly on 10 organ systems. 5 of them are going to get a lot of time. 5 of them are going to get a less time. In this class, we need to cover everything that the state tells us to cover. We need to prepare our students for their next step. Most people who are taking this class their career path is they're going to have a patient in front of them. Most people taking this class at DVC are going to be nurses, they're going to be dental hygienists, they're going to be physical therapists, they're going to be doctors, they're going to be dental assistants, they're going to be radiology techs. We are going to weight our course based on what the state tells us we need to teach and on what's going to help people in those professions. The cardiovascular system, we're going to cover more heavily than all the other systems. Test 3 is only on the cardiovascular system. The other ones, we're going to cover also. So immune system and integumentary system, we're not going to do too in-depth on. Nervous system is one we go into. Really the top 5 we go into a lot of depth in. The bottom 5 we go into some depth with. So let's finish up this lecture with a brief overview of the 10 organ systems that we're really gonna touch on in this class. A few things before we jump into this. These are going to be tips for the whole semester and really life also. When you have a patient in front of you, when you're in an integrated healthcare system, you need to speak healthcare. You need to speak physiology. Vocab is very important in this class and in most of your futures. You need to know sometimes things have more than one name. You need to know all the names. So circulatory system, cardiovascular system, they're the same thing. I'm going to be talking about them. I'm going to be using both words. And you will hear both words in your future. Be ready for the AKAs. Sometimes things have 3 or 4 names in this class. You need to know all of them. I will use all the different names on the test. Another thing I want to point out is the difference between a functional name and an anatomical name. Sometimes things get functional names which describe their function. So circulatory system, it circulates blood. It's a function. The function of circulating blood is where it gets its name. Cardiovascular system is an anatomical name. So cardiovascular means, cardio means heart, vascular is the vessels which blood moves through. So it describes anatomy, it's an anatomical name. So we'll see both types of names throughout the semester. And you should understand the difference. Another thing I want to point out is I love breaking words down into their origin words, like their root words. It's going to help you in my class. I'm going to talk about it throughout the semester, and it's going to help you in the future. It's going to help you understand healthcare talk, physiology talk. It's going to help you understand new terms because you're going to understand the root words of new terms, and it's going to make you a better healthcare provider. It's going to make you understand healthcare and physiology talk better in the future. Cardio refers to the heart. Vascular refers to vasculature. So cardiovascular, it's the heart and the tubes which the heart pumps blood through. Components, heart, blood, and vessels. Function, transport materials between cells of the body. So transport materials between cells of the body is what the circulatory system does. The function. Next up, endocrine. So the endocrine system has many components, many cells and endocrine glands like thyroid and adrenal glands. We can also see pancreas, kidneys, the nervous system, brain, testes, ovaries are all parts of the endocrine system. Function, coordinate function through the synthesis and release of regulatory molecules. So I've got a question for you. How many cells are in your body? The answer is a lot. There's a lot of cells in your body. And you need those cells to function together. You need to coordinate the function of all those cells within your body. There's a lot of cells in your body. They need to coordinate function. They need to work together in order for you to be a successful human being. Your endocrine system helps organize, helps all those cells in your body function together. And they do it through the synthesis and release of regulatory molecules. Your nervous system also helps you control the function of the many, many cells throughout your body. It does it through electrical signals and also the release of regulatory molecules. Both electrical signals and regulatory molecules. Hormones are like messenger molecules in your body. They're created in one part of your body, released, and send a message to another part of your body. There's a class of hormones called neurohormones. So your nervous system has hormones, chemical messengers, and also the electrical signals, which most people think about when they think of the nervous system. Respiratory system, it's the lung and airways, the tubes and your lungs. Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that's what most people think about when they think of the respiratory system, but it also plays a huge role in acid-base balance. The urinary system, aka the renal system. Urinary system, aka the renal system. Know the AKAs. It's the kidney, bladders, ureters, urethra. Function, maintenance of internal water levels, the removal of waste, and also acid-base balance. See redundancy. Next up, we've got the digestive tract, the GI or the gastrointestinal system. 3 AKAs, digestive, GI, gastrointestinal. Digestive, that's going to be functional, a functional name for it. GI is kind of an abbreviation of gastrointestinal. Well, gastrointestinal, gastro is going to refer to the stomach. Gastro is stomach, intestinal is your intestines. Break the words down, know the components of the words, please. Components: stomach, intestines, liver, and pancreas function, process food for energy and nutrient uptake, and also waste elimination. Your immune system has many components: thymus, spleen, lymph nodes. On this photo, you can also see the long bones are highlighted because that's where pluripotent hematopoietic stem cells are, which produce white blood cells, which are part of your immune system. Defense against foreign invaders, bacteria, viruses, parasites. Integumentary system. Integumentary system. You should know the word integumentary system. When you're working in healthcare, people might not just say your skin. They might say your integumentary system, and you need to know what they're talking about. Its job is protection from the internal environment. Musculoskeletal. Break this word down. Musculo, muscles. Skeletal, skeleton. So the musculoskeletal system. Function, support, and movement. And finally, your reproductive system. What does your reproductive system do? It perpetuates the species. It makes babies. It makes more humans. Components: ovaries and uterus and testes. Well, congratulations, everybody. You have made it through the first lecture, the first Human Physiology Biosc 140 lecture. I will see you in the next video. Please email me. Please reach out if you have any questions.